Hey everyone, really appreciate you joining today. Tim, Vinay, thanks for joining as well. I'm Aaron Shilts, CEO at NetSPI, joined today by Vinay Anand, our Chief Product Officer, and Tim MalcomVetter, our EVP of Strategy. So today's topic, we just want to talk a little more on our kind of evolving focus on proactive security, take a deeper dive into our recent product launch that was announced a couple of weeks ago. And through that conversation, I'll just spending some time talking about industry trends that we're seeing. We work with a couple thousand customers and some of the largest organizations in the world. So we see a lot of trends and have some discussion about kind of what we're seeing, what we're hearing in the industry, and what we're doing to address some of the challenges out there. So I'm really excited to dig into today's topic. Just a lot happening here at NetSPI. Some incredible growth recently and innovation that our team's driving, and excited to talk through that. First, just kind of a quick review and a little more about who we are at NetSPI. Look, we're an organization that's got our roots in penetration testing. I mean, we realized a while ago that the space was ripe for innovation, and more specifically, penetration testing was an area that, largely handled by humans. We felt like there was a real opportunity to inject better technology in the process to just drive a more efficient and an effective outcome for our customers. So we speak to a lot of industry leaders who receive kind of traditional pen testing reports that are difficult to action. It's really hard to remediate. A lot of them sort of end up on the shelf collecting dust, and so that's a big part of the problem that we've worked to address. So several years ago, embarked on this mission to build more technology to provide automation for our testers that frees them up to spend more time on deep dive manual testing, but also just a modern and fully integrated platform for our customers. That's what we call PTAS, or pen testing as a service. So giving them things like real-time results and integration with their ticketing system, simple things like that will allow them, to speed the remediation process. So bear with me as I kind of get through the history here. It'll make sense in a second as far as the platform journey and the recent release. But the tech stack then grew from PTAS to include attack surface management, breach and attack simulation technology. And so, we've really evolved from a pen testing company to offensive security into now what we're calling proactive security. I mean, we do a lot more than just testing. In fact, we're, working to help customers discover what they have in their entire IT estate, prioritize what to fix first, and then, just guiding them in the remediation process. I think we've just realized that delivering vulnerabilities to them is not enough, and we need to provide, a much more holistic view of the threat landscape, and more importantly, just, help to accelerate the remediation lifecycle. So we see this shift from, kind of traditional point-in-time testing to a more tech-enabled approach to proactive security. So that's what we want to talk through today. So Tim, if I could start with you, just love to hear your thoughts. I mean, we've been, seeing this kind of changing mindset in the industry, and you've worked for some of the largest players in the industry, and you've seen kind of that shift towards a more proactive security mindset. What are some of the experiences, and what have you seen as the drivers for that shift?
Yeah, great question. So obviously, we've kind of talked about this a little bit before, but everything's moving faster, and you hear people talk about faster and more complexity all the time, to the point where it's almost a cliche, but it's really true. And if you think back about about this. I like to look at this as like, this is just Agile for security, and Agile was a hot topic 15 years ago. And it's maybe not as much of a hot topic now. It's just kind of table stakes. Everyone says they do it, even though it might mean different things to different people. But Agile is not point in time testing. That's waterfall, right? Like I'm going to go once a year or once every 6 months or once a quarter and then drop off the waterfall. I'm doing my tests and then I go take that work. So we have, obviously there's a need to be faster because vulnerabilities pop up faster, bad guys find them faster. And if you're between like these waterfall little cycles, that's a gap. That's a gap in visibility. It's a gap in what you can discover, prioritize, and remediate. So yeah, obviously we want to get to that always on continuous mindset.
Yeah, the longer that gap is, the more window of exposure there is. And by the way, just as far as the audience, for all of you that have joined, we'd love to see your thoughts in the chat as well. And we can certainly respond and talk through those. Just curious on what changes you've seen in the industry and if you've seen some of this shift towards proactive security. Vinay, what do you feel it is about NetSPI? I mean, having been on, just over a year, and again, working for some of the largest players in cybersecurity, how do you feel like we're uniquely positioned to handle these changes?
Yeah, so as you said, Aaron, we've been doing pen testing for a while. So we've got really deep experience in understanding vulnerabilities, figuring out how to exploit them. The telemetry we have collected, staying on top of threat intel and the latest emerging threats. And, we have 300-ish or maybe more than 300 security experts who do this day in and day out, staying on top of emerging threats, probing customer networks, figuring out every which way to exploit and compromise their networks in a good way. So that corpus of knowledge that we have gained, that gives us a huge advantage to bring to customers. And as Tim mentioned with this whole analogy of agile, the threat landscape is changing. The IT estate itself is evolving fast. We went to cloud. Many of our enterprise customers are still grappling with, operationalizing everything on the cloud, understanding shadow IT, the devices, the ownership of those devices, assets, etc. So IT estate is complex. The threat landscape's shifting all the time. So this really needs a different approach from our customers. It's forcing our customers to say point-in-time pen testing, which was very good for a while, no longer suffices to give them the visibility into what is going on. So they need to become more continuous, more proactive, be better prepared before an event happens. So this is where I think NetSPI is best positioned because of our history, the knowledge we have gained, the expertise we have gathered over time, the telemetry we have. Bringing all of this to our current efforts and also integrating that with our product suite that you talked about makes it just a perfect point in time for us to do this.
I think the reality is, for the folks on the call and certainly conversations that we have in the industry, you see often situations where security leaders are maybe starting in a new job and really working to identify the maturity of the organization, the security maturity of the organization they've joined. People are, these leaders are on a journey from, little maturity in the testing program to highly mature programs. So I guess, Vinay, the question for you, I'm sure there's people on the call today that are just starting that journey, and it can be overwhelming to build this programmatically. Where would you say they should start?
Yeah, this is a good question. We hear this all the time from our customers, right? So first and foremost, just get to basics, right? Basic hygiene. Know what you have. Understand all the assets you have, which ones are exposed, which ones are not, which ones are most important, mission critical, which ones are not. Understand what vulnerabilities exist on them. And then prioritize them. Figure out which of these are important to fix. Many of the vulnerabilities you have are probably okay to live with because they are ring fenced, they are behind 6 layers of firewalls and NAT gateways and whatever. No one can get to it. But just understand where the risk is, where the exposure is, what is the impact of something going down. Just basic brass tacks hygiene, right? Start with that. Get a good map of what you have, and then work your way up from that. And this is what this is what many of our customers tell us also. Step one, I need to know what I have, and they struggle with that because of the bifurcation between IT and InfoSec. The budgets being in different places, the complexity of everything that's going on.
And just taking that step, right? I mean, often we get caught in analysis paralysis and trying to make it perfect. I mean, you've just got to take that step forward. And we see that as the beginning journey as a lot of, our partners work to improve their program. It was interesting. I mean, 10 years ago, if you think about it, most pen testing that we saw in the industry was very much driven by compliance. And it's certainly a big driver today. But I do think we've seen a meaningful shift, maybe specifically even in the past 5 years, where we see more in the industry doing it programmatically, like doing it for the right reasons, working with the business stakeholders and not just working to check the box. Obviously, this is very different and much more effective way of performing testing. So Vinay, I'm just kind of curious, your thoughts. Have you seen that same kind of evolution in the industry as well?
I have, and I've seen this so many times. Way back, when we started doing network security, detection versus prevention, customers would first say, just tell me what's going on before I even take action. This whole aspect of compliance versus proactive is the same thing. Started with compliance, which was a checkbox. Let me understand what vulnerabilities I have. There's a requirement, so I'm going to do a compliance check. Half of the customers, you could say, do it because it's a requirement either in their vertical or in their organization to do pen testing. So it's a compliance, either industry compliance or within their enterprise. The other half do it because they genuinely want to be compliant with something, right? That's the start. But that gives them eyes and ears into what is going on. And as their sophistication evolves and they become comfortable, and with all the changes we talked about, that compliance approach is moving to more proactive and saying, I want to go beyond compliance. I want to actually know what needs to be protected and where the risks are. So this is a very natural journey. And I think we are at that, I hate to use the word inflection, it's an overused word, but we are at that inflection point where majority of our customers are those who have been focused on compliance are moving from compliance to actually being more proactive.
Tim, I mean, you drove this program for a Fortune 10 company. You saw this, I would imagine, in real time.
Yeah, I always like to say that when you focus on compliance, you might do security, but if you focus on security, you're most likely going to knock out at least 80% of your compliance, and the rest is just proving that you actually are doing it right. Really good programs that care about security, compliance is easy. So if you focus on that, like the rest is just a matter of like, what do I need to do to demonstrate? Am I demonstrating directly? Or it might be you argue with an auditor over what the last little details actually mean. But outside of that, it's really more about like just doing best practices for sure. So yeah, absolutely. So and then as we're looking through this and like going from compliance, we're also thinking about like, when you focus on security, you're going to actually try to bring multiple products together and try to actually get them all to work well, because you're trying to actually focus on moving the needle, moving the ball down the field, right? Not just I'm checking a box. So I've got a product that's checking a box. Security is like, I want this stuff to all orchestrate and I want it to all be meaningful. So you start asking yourself, like, how do you get that to happen? So real quick, shout out to the audience, like for a question, like what are some security product integrations that you wish the industry would build but have never built, and it frustrates you because it just don't exist, right? Like it's not just like what things do you have talking now, but like what things do you wish you could have talking together. Also, real quick shout out to Jeremy Haler at Foresight for asking a really great question while we're doing this. So Jeremy asked, like, are you highlighting a shift from point-in-time testing to a more autonomous model? And if so, how are you maintaining a baseline of clients' posture? And what do you mean by proactive penetration testing? Jeremy, that's an awesome question. So the general answer for that is NetSPI ASM is a constant, like think of it as a constant external penetration test. It is a mix of tech and talent, as you'll hear Aaron often say, where we're using our technology that Vinay's team has built to go continuously watch for changes to a customer's attack surface. As new things come up, we go test them. If our technology finds something that is interesting, our testers go and they validate them, which is why we have an extremely low, like sub 1% false positive rate, because you actually have a human pen tester validating the differences as they pop up, those deltas and changes over time. So yes, we are in fact maintaining a baseline. It is semi-autonomous, but it's not like we've got the AI cyborg that's doing it all. It is absolutely a mix of human and technology. So yeah, absolutely. But Aaron, I want to come back to you. So with all these changes that we're doing in the platform and the rebranding, and we've obviously talked to a lot of customers. We talked about how that's been customer focused and really, really important to us to get their insight on it. What are things we decided we absolutely cannot change? We have to keep these things. What are things that are like, true to form, to NetSPI, to our culture, to our brand, that we wanted to maintain in that change and transition?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the cyber industry is crowded, and our customers have no shortage of choices when looking for providers. We have a lot of respect for many of our industry peers, and by the way, a couple of our large customers on the call today, which is awesome to see. Some of the most prominent organizations in the world trust us to partner with them, and so we take that really seriously. We work hard to build that trust, and just focusing on driving a more meaningful and proactive improvement to their program, and helping our customers really shine in their organization at the end of the day, helping them to have wins inside their company. Just over a year ago, Vinay joined as our Chief Product Officer, and as part of this journey, we really needed to double down on our product and engineering teams and the way that we're building technology. Very quickly started reviewing our tech stack, and quickly came back a couple months in and basically said, hey man, we got to re-platform. Like, the existing platform that we have is great, it's gotten us to this point, but our customer demand is increasing significantly, and we need a platform where we can build kind of advanced use cases and greater technology. And more importantly, it's just critical that we bring together our ASM, PTAS, and BAS solutions, three separate cloud-based solutions today, onto one common platform that can share data more easily and all those things. So we began that journey, and that's a big part of the release that we're talking about today. But to answer your question directly, Tim, I mean, the critical component through this journey, and one that we feel so strongly about, is the human element. I mean, our team of experts not only triage and validate findings, but as I mentioned before, I mean, it's the tech that allows them to spend significantly more time on deep dive manual testing. So, we think the industry really recognizes this as well. I mean, as we're competitively working on, for instance, a lot of different attack surface management, opportunities with our customers, our ability to triage and really reduce the noise for customers is only possible because of the human element in that partnership that it drives. And, most importantly, I mean, I think technology can't really partner in the way that humans can and drive that trust and interaction. And if the security industry is built on anything, it's trust and relationship between our teams as a provider and our. So again, to answer very directly, I mean, the human element is something that we feel strongly about, and will just be core to who we are as an organization as we build more and more technology. I think it's, to get into a little more detail on the platform, Vinay, it'd be interesting to just talk through a little more detail on what exactly the customers can expect as they sign up for the platform. What's kind of coming down the road? What have you built? How are things looking?
Yeah. So first of all, to just double down on what you said, that interlock between our security experts and our products remains the bedrock of what we're doing, right? And in some ways, that also gives us a bit of an asymmetry in our favor, because we are able to bring this massive expertise along with the automation and everything else the product delivers. So when customers start adopting the platform today, they will get the same really, really solid, dependable experience they got with our PTAS platform in the last 5 years. So we have migrated our PTAS platform over to run the platform. We have created a unified asset model. So all of the assets we discovered through ASM, through breach and attack simulation, through PTAS, every one of our products, they can look at it in the same place. In the next 3 to 6 months, we're going to add ASM and BAS onto this platform. So you have one single place for all of our products, which will leverage not only a common data model, but also unified attack paths, unified asset inventory. And all of this really leads to the main outcome customers care about, is to understand the risk to their enterprise. So the reason we are bringing it all together is, I can summarize in 2 ways. One is just operational efficiency, make it easier for our customers to deal with us. One place to go for everything NetSPI. But the more important reason we are doing it is help them understand their entire asset landscape, prioritization. All of it leads to understanding risk to each asset, to classes of assets, to use cases, and what are the attack paths? What are the ways attackers can exploit them? How do they defend against those? How do they remediate those exploitable assets, prevent those attack paths from being active. So those are the things we are working towards. We are also going to start building an internal visibility capability in the next 6 months. So not only the ASM and external visibility, but they'll start getting visibility to inside the network. So we combine outside and inside. This is what customers can get in the next 6 months, and all of it backed by the very, very high fidelity, low positive outcomes because of our experts that curate everything we do.
We've talked a little bit about the different technology, and this is an industry that's got a lot of no shortage of acronyms. But Tim, just interested in a little more detail on exactly what PTAS is and how the new platform is going to enable our customers to activate some of the features and functionality in PTAS.
Yeah, it's a really interesting loaded term, penetration testing as a service. So we talked to like 10 people off the street. Like if you were to go to RSA conference last week and ask somebody, you might hear somebody just say, oh, I've got a service provider that's doing it. You might hear somebody say, oh, I've got a platform that enables workflow. Or you might hear somebody say, oh, that means I can order up continuous testing. And it's really more like what our ASM is doing. But at the end of the day, like what this really is just the evolution of pen testing. If you stop and think about what pen testing is today compared to what it was 20 years ago, there's not a lot that's changed. It's a smart person using tools and using their brain to try to figure out how to break something and make an application or a network or a computer or a system of some sort do something it's not supposed to do in order to achieve an outcome that a bad guy would want that a good guy obviously wouldn't want. So when you think about like that's not changed. But what has changed is how you consume them. So if you're going to go get a 100-page PDF from a really large network pen test, and then go hand it to a project manager and then have them then split every single finding up into an Excel document with each finding in a separate little line item, and then carve those off into separate tickets for various dev teams and infrastructure teams. That's a nightmare. And what's funny is I didn't make that story up. That's actually a customer story, right? Like we have customers that have actually been doing things like that. Instead, we go when we build those workflows. So we go as we're testing, findings pop up because our ticket integration work starts coming in. You start figuring out where to farm it out to immediately. You can go put it to the right Jira queue or ServiceNow queue or whatever, and give it to that team, whether it's an infrastructure team or a dev team or whomever. Start that whole process immediately, drive the remediation faster. And when you're ready, you can let us know that you want a remediation test on that finding, and we can get that thing like knocked off and clean as quickly as possible. So stuff like that is what really, that's what we mean when we say evolution, is just being able to do it faster. You can also do things like looking back in time. Like, so we tested this a year ago. There's an old joke, and everybody on this call probably already knows it. When you go and hire a pen tester, well, the first thing you're going to think is like, I'm going to go look at last year's report. How many of those things are still fixed and are still open? And yeah, a lot of times it used to be like most of them. So if we stop and think about this, if we're just doing pen tests and we say we're doing it for best practice, not compliance, like Mike Bickler, one of our customers who commented in the chat, thanks, Mike. Then you're not obviously going to sit there and leave those things hanging out. If you're doing it for compliance, you might look at that and go, yeah, risk accepted, leave it out there forever. But if you're trying to actually move the needle and improve your security posture, you want to fix it. So you need that integration, and you need to know year over year, how am I getting better? Where am I getting worse? That sort of thing. And at the end of the day, also, you really need flexibility. Our customers don't necessarily know at the beginning of the year everything they need to have tested. That's why one of the ways you can transact with us is by buying a big bucket of tokens, as we call them, which is basically like a way to say, hey, I'm going to have so many engagements this year. I don't know what kind they're going to be. Maybe I need ASM. Maybe I'll decide I need that middle of the year. Maybe I need BAS middle of the year, or maybe I just need 50 pen tests. Well, I have no idea what they are, but I really want to go and simplify my process of buying that and know that I've got a really good trusted partner ready and on the side waiting. And when these things pop up, I can just order them. And that's all the kinds of stuff that our platform enables, is not just like being faster, consuming the data faster, being more continuous in how we deliver the various kinds of engagements, but also being flexible in how you can actually benefit from us.
Thanks, Tim. A few minutes left. I mean, as we work to wrap up here, I think it'd be good to just kind of briefly cover some of the softer side of our recent announcements and launch as well, and also make sure everyone recognizes us when they see us with our new colors and logo and everything else. But there's actually a pretty meaningful drivers behind some of the changes that we made to our visual identity. We're shifting from this thought process and branding around offensive security to proactive security, and we felt some brand changes aligned with that were important as well. I mean, we all see it, but the cyber industry is plagued with a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. A lot of websites with, the hooded hacker in a dark room with smoke in the background and dark color schemes and everything else. And it's really not who we are, and it's not who we are continuing to transform to as well. I mean, I talk to, so many of our customers and partners who say, look, we trust NetSPI and we partner with NetSPI because of that trust. And so we really wanted to lean into that. So you see just a different color scheme and a different logo, and leaning into the connectivity and trust between us and our customers, and kind of pulling away from terms like offensive security. I mean, the reality is, we partner with the defenders of the world, and we spend a lot of time helping them defend their organizations, and made some brand changes around that. And slate blue is a cool color too, and orange pops. So those a couple of the reasons between the rebrand, and it's also, I think, just kind of visually appealing as our customers start to log in and leverage the platform. But more importantly, I think as we wrap up today, and I'll start with you, Tim. I mean, what do you think the most important thing for our audience to take away from this platform release, and how it can help them?
Yeah, number one, all your data is in one place. What that means is, if you want to go find your pen test from last year, or you want to find your pen test from 6 months in the future from now, like as we go down there and we build that out, like you have all of it right there for reporting, for one. And for two, you can see that trending data. And for three, once you have all your data in that single place, you're starting to do things like, oh, wow. So based on what I saw on this internal pen test, I wonder what my detection coverage actually is. So let's order up a BAS engagement, because what I really want to know is, if this thing were to be compromised, because maybe it's really, really hard to mitigate the preventative controls on that in that particular asset. So I really need to double down on detective controls. It'll start to drive like asking what if questions, which will then turn into new opportunities for you to test and automate and know is all the stuff that's in that space, right? So like having your data in one place enables that. Also, the era of PDFs and giant CSV files, those are done. It's gone. And you can easily start figuring out, like, what is your actual ROI, like, as you're starting to go down this path. Like, to me, that's the real core of getting everything together.
What do you think, Vinay?
Yeah, so, and at the beginning of the call, you said something. I'm going to just bring that back. The entire focus of building the platform and what customers can get out of this and moving forward, continuously discover what they have. This goes back to the data model thing Tim was just mentioning, all the data in one place. Continuously discover what they have. Ability to help them prioritize what's important. And to some of the comments being made, help them remediate where the risks are, right? In summary, that is what this platform's meant to do, and will do it. And one other thing which is important to call out is, by doing this, we are helping our customers move from point-in-time visibility to a continuous model, continuous visibility. Now, there's a lot of buzz in the industry around continuous pen testing, continuous this and that. But what this platform does, because we bring everything together and with all the probes and scanners and everything we have, is it allows them to continuously discover what they have, stay on top of the changing asset landscape, changing threat landscape, assess the impact, and this is important, the prioritizing what is important, prioritizing where to pay attention. And that comes with context from your own internal network importance, what the assets are doing and why they're business critical, overlaying that with threat intel and what we are seeing from outside. And this is where our 300 plus security experts come in. That manual element is super important here. You overlay that, and then you can prioritize and say which ones are really important, which ones are exploitable. And we can look at our history of, tens of thousands of pen tests we have done over the years, and we learn from that and say, if we find this kind of vulnerability on this kind of a stack, we know it can be exploited in a particular way. And that helps. That's invaluable insight we can bring. And do it continuously, right? That is what customers can get from the platform. And we are furiously building out features to get more and more into this.
Thanks, Vinay. So as we wrap up, I'm looking through the comments of the attendees, and there's one comment, I guess not really a question, but I just kind of want to read it because I think it highlights a big part of our focus is like what truly moves the needle in an organization's program is what comes after the pen testing is done. And man, the number of conversations I've had with industry leaders that literally said, Aaron, we don't need help finding more vulnerabilities. We can find plenty, with your help and other providers and on our own. What we need help with is remediation. And so that's been a big focus for us is providing more actionable guidance, providing integration, something as simple as getting things out of a PDF and integrated into a ticketing system that someone is ultimately held accountable to fix. And then, by the way, like actually giving them some guidance, and, the word used in this comment was handholding, which I think is a great one, to help them along in the journey of fixing them. I think, in the enterprise, whether it's developers or network engineers or whoever, they want to do the right thing. They want to be aligned with the security organization, but they've got a lot of priorities of their own. And so we need to give them the tools and techniques and help to help clean up these vulnerabilities and patch things up. So I really loved that comment. We're at time. Appreciate the great Q&A and interaction from those of you that joined today. We'll be doing another one of these soon. Thank you so much for joining. And